Hi there, Pat Croce here, and this is the American Cancer Society's Healed Community Gathering. Healed, health and energy through active living every day. And thank you for being with us today. And I'd first like to thank 6ABC, our media sponsor, who's making this happen and shares all this content on 6abc.com. So if you missed any one of our, how many shows we're on? 37 shows, go to 6abc.com. I'd also like to thank all of our leadership partners who ponied up lots of bucks to help conduct all the research going on down in Atlanta at ACS's headquarters. And we'll be mentioning Healed because I have something to read to you. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you who went to acshealed.com and committed any amount of money, from $5 to $5,000. It doesn't matter. Your commitment to giving to such a good cause, I thank you. And you get, as a reward, our Healed bracelet with that one green bead signifying we're all in this together. Whether you've been diagnosed with cancer or you've been touched by someone who's been touched by cancer, we're all in this together. And speaking of Healed, our research down in Atlanta, conducted by Dr. Erica Rees-Punilla, is about getting people active after diagnosis. Well, this week, Dr. Nick Denugley, an orthopedic surgeon who's been on the gathering twice, and everyone's a big fan of Dr. Nick's. He's a team physician, was for the Sixers and the Pennsylvania Ballet. He sends me from the JAPA Journal, the Journal of American Medical Association, Oncology, cancer survivors with prolonged daily sitting and little to no physical activity had a higher risk of death. Let me just read this paragraph. Cancer survivors with prolonged daily sitting and a little to no physical activity had a far higher chance of death, whether from their cancer or other causes. Investigators found in the prospective study of more than 1,500 cancer survivors followed up for 9 years, those who were completely inactive or had insufficient leisure time physical activity, and who also reported sitting for more than 8 hours per day, 8 hours on their butt every day, had a 5-fold increase risk of overall or cancer-specific mortality compared with those who were active. Then just yesterday, I get from U.S. News, from Paula Green, who's our director in the Philadelphia region of ACS, from U.S. News, their whole report on this. And the beauty of this is, according to Dr. Alpha Patel, and Alpha has been on the gathering. She's the senior vice president of population services at the American Cancer Society down in Atlanta. She says this report continues to reinforce the important message of being physically active and limit your sedentary time, especially how you're going to use your leisure time. She said it's not only that we exercise less, you actually see more of a displacement of what we call daily life activity or light intensity activity. I'm sitting more because I'm not standing and washing the dishes or doing other things, like other chores around the house. What she's saying is we're sitting too much, and that's what Healed research is all about. Health and energy through active living every day. And the research has been started in the beginning of this year when we raised the first $1.1 million. We're up to $2 million, and we still need $500,000 more. But nevertheless, the research is underway with 4 participants of a variety of cancer diagnoses. And what they're going to reveal at the end of this is something that we can all use. Anyone who's been diagnosed with cancer or who is a caregiver to a family member or loved one with cancer. So you have the ability to give them something to do in their leisure time, not just sit on the couch. And so I'm so excited that now people are realizing that sedentary lifestyle, sitting 8 hours a day, is not good for you. Duh. Well, someone who doesn't sit at all, you're going to love her because we all love her. She comes on once a month, Dr. Jeanie Seubach. She's a professor of nutrition at Westchester University. She was the team nutritionist for the Philadelphia 76ers and the Philadelphia Flyers and my sports medicine centers a couple of lives ago. So she knows her stuff. If there's a nutritionist I call on, it's Dr. Jeanie Seubach. She left the pros so she could concentrate on what's called RAM Chefs, a culinary program for young adults with developmental disabilities. And one of the sessions she came on, she brought one of her students with her from her nutrition lab in Westchester. Now, Jeanie has spoken on yogurt, beans, protein, energy bars, fruits and vegetables, probiotics and prebiotics. And today she says she's going to talk about ancient grains and winter vegetables. So let's bring on Dr. Jeanie Seubach.
Hey, Pat, how are you?
Great, Jeanie. Jeanie, I got to tell you, and friends, I call Jeanie by the first name because we're on a first name basis. I think I knew her before she was a doctor. I think I knew her when she was my patient. So, but nevertheless,
yes.
Yeah, everyone loves Jeanie. I mean, Jeanie should have her own TV show. That I get so many emails and texts every time you're on, Jeanie. It's great. So thank you for joining us each month.
It's a pleasure. It's an honor. I love doing this. As you know, cancer has been in my family for years, and anything we can do to, combat this and get together, it's an honor to do this.
So you're not in your lab today?
I'm not. Little technical difficulties, but we have to be patient. A couple of weeks, we will be streaming it live from there. So yeah.
Okay. Good. So ancient grains, and what was the other? Winter veggies.
Winter vegetables, right.
First, tell me, what is an ancient grain?
Okay, so first, let's say why we chose this topic.
Oh, no, that's even better. You tell me.
So I chose this topic because it's the beginning of January. Hopefully everybody had a lovely holiday season. And we know with the holiday seasons, what do? We eat a little bit more decadent foods, and we eat a little bit more food, and you're a little bit more sedentary. So a lot of, clients will say, oh, it's so hard to eat vegetables in the winter. I don't feel like eating a salad. And we're so blessed with the harvest of bounty of wonderful vegetables in the summer. You go out to the garden, you pick it, but now they're not so available. So our job as dietitians is to teach people that there's different seasons of vegetables. And we know that we want to eat seasonally because that's when you're going to get the highest nutrient content. It's going to be the most affordable. But we have to learn what to do with them. So that's why we're going to talk about the winter vegetables, but we're going to talk about the ancient grains because you see a lot of magazine articles about comfort foods in the winter, and you see the macaroni and cheese and the spare ribs and all these very, very high fat foods. So we want comfort foods, but we want to do them with whole foods, whole grains, foods that are going to work with you. So we're going to combine the two. And you spoke of my foods lab. For viewers that don't know, I teach at Westchester University, and I teach a culinary nutrition, and I like to call it a laboratory. It's not a lab, it's a laboratory. And our favorite lab from the students is when we do the grain bowls. We start with the ancient grains. And to answer your question, Pat, what is an ancient grain? A little secret, it's actually a marketing term. It's the marketers took that term, but it is a grain that has been around for many years and is minimally processed, hasn't changed over the years in how we, we don't genetically modify it and how we harvest it and the end result. Okay, so they are things like our quinoa. Okay, quinoa is relatively new to our country, I would say within the last 10 years, but it's been around for centuries. It's actually a seed, not a grain. So it's what we call a pseudo cereal. So that's one, is the quinoa. The quinoa is higher in protein. It's very, very high in protein. I think I had mentioned before in some of the segments, but for our viewers that weren't on it, one thing about quinoa is we have to be socially responsible because we do get it from countries that it is their main protein source. So we're taking it from these countries that it's their main protein source. So I say, if you're going to do quinoa, don't do any other animal proteins in the diet. Make this your main protein to be respectful for all.
Jeanie, I got a question there first, because is it a whole protein by itself, or do you have to mix it with something else?
It is almost a complete protein. It's almost like that soy. It is, let's say it is the highest protein content of the grains.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah. but you will mix it with other grains and you'll complement that. So if you do this with a vegetable, the amino acids in the vegetable will complement the amino acids in the quinoa.
But by itself, quinoa has the highest protein content that can be complemented to create a complete protein.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And there's many different types of quinoa. This is the red quinoa. There is a white quinoa. There is a blue quinoa. There's different you can buy it. It's called the tricolor quinoa. I think I don't have any tricolor, but you can.
Food coloring, or is that natural?
No, it's natural. It's the natural. That's where do you think we get our ink from? We get our pig at the university. We have a pigment garden that we grow plants that the art department uses for pigment. So yeah, you have to come visit. It's fantastic. And you'll love this one, Pat. Guess who took over the gardens this year?
You?
I have 4 new gardens on the university. I have big shoes to fill from Ashley Delshot and Joan Walsh, but the nutrition department is going to be in charge of the 4 community gardens, and we're going to take those vegetables in the harvest. The students are going to work. They're going to go to our resource pantry. We're going to go to the food cupboard. Anybody in the community that needs fresh produce, I'm the person to see. Well,
Jeanie, don't give any of your students an A unless they have dirt underneath their fingernails.
That's right. Yep, we will. We'll wash that. But let's get back to quinoa. So this is my red quinoa. This is our white quinoa. Okay. I make something called a quinoa cake, which is incredible. And you just it's not a sweet cake.
Your protein bars, your shakes, you're just incredible.
So, it's my job. It's my job, and I love my job. But anyway, the quinoa cake, you take your quinoa and you cook it, and you mix it with some red peppers and some onions and a little bit of breadcrumbs, and you mix it up, and you actually make a patty, and you bake it, or you can lightly pan fry it, or you can air fry it. I love my air fryer. Then you take a red pepper sauce, and you take jarred roasted red peppers, and you process them. You put some almonds in it and a little bit of red vinegar and garlic. It is incredible. So that's what you can do with your quinoa.
Well, instead of crab cakes, these are quinoa cakes.
They're quinoa cakes. Yep.
Wow.
And you can also make them like little appetizers for happy hour. You can make little quinoa appetizers. Very, very lovely. So so that's our quinoa. That's our first one. There's many ancient grains. I'm not going to hit on them all today because due to our supply chain issue in the supermarkets, you cannot find a lot of these things. Okay, so we have to be really careful. But I could find my farro, and farro is lovely. Okay, farro is chewy. It is nutty. It's not as soft as the brown rice, but this is also a great ancient grain. 3 grams of fiber in it, 160 calories. So this is lovely. So when we make our grain bowls, we'll make the quinoa, we will make the farro. We also will make the barley. Now, if you think about barley, you're probably thinking about beer, and you're probably thinking about maybe soup or animal feed, but barley is an ancient grain that can be eaten alone. I don't eat it by itself a lot. I do put it into the soups, but that is another example of the ancient grain. Then you have something called millet. Have you ever had millet, Pat?
Oh, millet muffin.
Okay, millet muffin. Well, here's a thing that when the 76ers went to China a couple of years ago, one of my jobs was to investigate the food supply when our team hit ground. And one of the things, and of course, we want to be, respectful of, local cultures, and they eat millet as a breakfast porridge. And it's higher in protein than regular oatmeal. It's absolutely delicious. So what we did down at the complex, we had millet as porridge for a couple weeks before our trip to get our players acclimated to it. It's a little different taste. If you're an oatmeal person, you might not love it, but I rotate it out, and I'll have, instead of my oats, sometimes I'll have millet. I do cook it in the Instapot. Now, the thing about these ancient grains is they're also whole grains. And Pat, can you remember what is a difference in cooking time between our whole grains and, say, our processed grains?
Longer.
They're longer because they're whole, and we have to penetrate those membranes and we have to soften them so that we can digest them a little bit better. So they do take a little bit longer to cook. Quinoa doesn't. Quinoa's
just 1 second there, because that they take longer to cook so that they can be broken down. So the question I'm going to ask is how, since they have so much fiber and they really have to be broken down by our GI tract, how difficult is it for someone who has, like me, IBS, to eat these whole grains?
That's going to be specific to the individual. So a person with IBS, you know your body, you know what things trigger and do not. They do have higher fiber levels than the processed grains. So I would say start slowly. And you might find that, you can eat brown rice, no problem. But if you eat a little bit of quinoa or farro, it might give you, some GI distress. So I would say start small. Always start with only like maybe a quarter to a half a cup, and then you can go up with that. Please know, Pat, that when we talk about fiber, our body does not have the ability to digest fiber. That's why it is good. It's the roto-rooter of the food. It kind of like cleans out that intestinal tract, increases intestinal motility, and kind of clears you out, because we cannot digest that. We don't have the enzyme to digest it, but we use it as a carrier to get out all those impurities. Okay, we want to be clean, we want to be drained, and that's why we have our fiber. And that's also why fiber is so good for cholesterol, for heart health, because it picks up the cholesterol biles and it extracts it from the body. So that's why we want to do that. Also stabilizes your blood sugar. So we have to look at the whole picture. You have a high fiber diet, it stabilizes your blood sugar. And we know those who suffer from, impaired glucose levels, that's a really big thing. But back to our ancient grains, we have farro, quinoa, the millet. We like our millet. We have our barley. And then there's something called teff, which you can say that you heard it on this show. You're going to see it in the restaurants more and more.
How do you spell that?
TEFF.
Oh, that's okay. I'm writing these down.
Yeah, my colleague, Dr. Amir, he did a lot of research on teff.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, it's an acquired taste. I'm going to tell you like that. You might get it sort of like a polenta on a plate with lots of vegetables. But we know that if you take those vegetables and you season them up, everything tastes good. Okay. So you're going to see teff. So they're the things that you're going to, these are our ancient grains, but they can be a base for your grain bowl. Okay.
Okay. And what exactly is a grain bowl?
Well, a grain bowl is a bowl that starts with the bottom of grain, but we want to make sure that the grain is the base and not the whole bowl. So people go to Chipotle and they get all this white rice and the sour cream and the cheese. And it's like, I'm like shaking my head. No. I want a little bit of brown rice. Now, brown rice is not so much an ancient grain, but it's a grain that is around. And for convenience, I always have a convenience food, right? These little Minute Maid 100, the 1 minute in the microwave. These are fine. Okay. A little bit more sodium than regular plain rice. But if you're on the go, I can take this with me, pop in the microwave, very, very easy. But you want to add, what do you think I want to add to my grain bowl, Pat? I have my grain bowl base.
Vegetables. Fruit.
Nothing, cheese, vegetables. But what did we talk about last time? We talked about what do I need for my muscles?
What
I need for my protein. Right.
I thought you meant food.
What's that?
I thought you meant what kind of food.
Yeah, what type of food? Yeah, my protein food. So if I'm going to eat my protein, what do you think I'm partial to? Did we lose Pat?
I'm here.
Oh, you're right. What am I partial to?
Grain-based.
My beans. My beans. Okay.
I can't eat beans, so that's the last thing I would think of.
Okay. Well, then you can do your tuna.
Tuna, that would be the first thing I would think of.
Okay, you can do tuna, or you can do a salmon, or you can do, we spoke about our eggs. Okay, you can put your egg on top of it. But of course, we want to put our vegetables. So let's recap. Ancient grains are grains that have been around a long time. They
So, Jeanie,
really
just take a bowl, be a mathematician with us together so that someone has a bowl. What percent of the bowl should be the grains? 1/5, 1/4?
I would say about a quarter.
Okay, a quarter.
So a quarter should be your grains.
Base. Okay, your grain base.
Yep. And then I would say a quarter should be your protein.
Good.
And then the half should be your vegetables.
Oh, sweet.
Okay. Kind of goes back to my plate, right, Pat?
Yeah.
My plate, which is the USDA teaching tool. They recommend that if you picture a round plate, half should be fruits and vegetables. The other half should be, another quarter should be protein, and the other quarter should be grains. Okay, so it's like a quarter of everything. So if I start with my farro, my quinoa, or my brown rice, I'll put that in the bottom of the bowl, and then I'm going to top some beans or some eggs or some tuna, beautiful chicken. I just bought a whole chicken. I'll put it in the Instapot. We can pull it, and you have some chicken for wraps, for grain bowls. And then you want to do the vegetables. With the vegetables, we're going to talk about the winter vegetables. Pat, I think this is going to blow your mind a little bit. So, okay.
What is that?
Okay.
It looks like, I don't even want to say what it looks like.
Okay. That's my weapon. This is my Brussels sprouts.
Is it really?
Yeah, these are Brussels sprouts. You know, you just take them off and a Brussels sprout. Okay, so this is just a fancy way to buy them. And I'll be honest with you, I don't buy them this way. I just thought for TV this looked cool. But, you know, you take your Brussels sprouts, and Brussels sprouts, winter vegetable, they're the cruciferous vegetables. We talk about cruciferous vegetables, things coming from the cabbage family, have what we want to say kind of anti-cancer properties, protective properties. So we always want to have some cruciferous vegetables. So Brussels sprout is a cruciferous vegetable. It's also a winter vegetable. You can roast these, and a roasted vegetable, a Brussels sprout with balsamic vinegar and a little bit of walnuts or pecans. Oh, wonderful. Put that on top of your grain, okay? And then you're going to take some carrots. And we love our carrots, right? Carrots are also a winter vegetable. And carrots are also beta-carotene. Beta-carotene is that antioxidant. Antioxidant protects our cells from oxidation, protects our cells from free radicals, which we know are not so great for us. So you can take your carrots, you can put them raw, you can steam them, you can roast them. We're going to do our carrots. And then one of my favorites, do you know what this is?
No. Radish.
Nope. Well, radishes, good call. Radishes are a winter vegetable. You can put that on your bowl. But this is Swiss chard.
Oh, what?
And Swiss chard, it's in the summer, but it's also likes the cold weather. It is so incredible. If you have deer in your yard, the deer love it. So you might have to do some deer repellent. But yeah, the Swiss chard is fantastic. My favorite recipe from that is a Swiss chard pinto bean enchilada. All right. We take that, the Swiss chard, we saute it up. We put our red pepper. We put our green pepper. You can see all the different colors. And then you put your pinto beans in it. You make an enchilada sauce, which has the tomato sauce. And Pat, we talked about many times lycopene, which comes from the cooked tomato, which we know is associated with prostate cancer. And you know, I want to fight that prostate cancer, and lycopene decreases the risk of it. So in this pinto bean enchilada, I do corn tortillas.
So you left the bowl and you went to enchilada now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, you know, the bowl.
I just want to make sure the bowl's complete so we know.
We're going to put our Swiss chard in it. Okay. We're going to put our Swiss chard. But in the bowl, you can also, you know, toast this corn tortilla and put that on top of it. Or you can take the bowl and put it in the corn tortilla and eat it as a burrito. So when
you throw all these, now remember, I am illiterate in the kitchen. Diane does all the cooking. I know nothing, but I love nutrition. I love to know the body. How do you mix this all up in this bowl? Like, what do you do? What do you make it? Is there some sauce or something that keeps it, that stirs it all together, gets the grains a little moister?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can put soy sauce in it. You can put coconut aminos in it. You can put hot sauce in it. You can moisten it with an avocado, which is a great source of monounsaturated fat. It's also a good source of vitamin K. So you can smush that avocado in it if you want that.
What do you use in your bowl, in your grain bowl?
I love the coconut aminos. It's like a soy sauce, but it doesn't have soy in it, and it's a little bit lower in sodium, and it gives it a really, really nice flavor for it. I do like to put a little avocado on it. Is lovely. Sour cream, I don't want you to use so much sour cream, but you can put some non-fat Greek yogurt in it, and that kind of moistens it up. You can put a little bit of cheese in it if you would like to do that. So Pat, let's visualize. You take your bowl, you put, for portion control, put 1 container of this rice in it. Okay, so that's a portion control. About 1 cup, put that down there, and then you're going to put your vegetables.
No, you got your protein.
What? No, for the protein, you put the beans in it, you put the eggs in it.
I got you. I'm following you, teacher.
You got it. Then other winter vegetables, kale. Kale was very popular a couple years ago. I still have kale in my garden. Kale, it's the one that never stops going. This, for convenience, is kale. It is Swiss chard, and it is also spinach. Wow. 3 winter vegetables. So you can put this on top of it. And to answer your question, Pat, if you want to put some salad dressing on it, you could. I happen to like a little bit of avocado oil and a little bit of vinegar with that. It's lovely, good monounsaturated fat. And then, you'll have your grain bowl. You can put anything you want in it. Red cabbage is also a winter vegetable. And we know that we like to ferment things. So if you ferment some of your cabbage, which is lovely. Coleslaw is also a great way to get vegetables in the winter. So if you're having a turkey sandwich, make up a little coleslaw. Not that wet, sloppy stuff that you get, I'm talking about good. It's cabbage and carrots. Put a little bit of like low-fat mayonnaise in it. Just kind of taste it. And this is a way to get some more vegetables in.
Jeanie, that's beautiful. Now you take your grain bowl and just sit on the bench for a little while, and then I'm going to bring you back on. But next, we're going to have our survivor story with Gail Strohmeyer, and then you'll come back on because I have a couple more questions if our gathering members don't have any for you. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Thanks.
And I hope my wife watches this, so I know she eats grain bowls when she goes out, but I have never had a grain bowl before, but that sounds great. So our next guest is our Survivor Series. We try to have every week a warrior or warrior goddess, someone who has had the diagnosis of cancer, and then either pre or post cancer, use that to challenge the odds as well as spread a message and do more good for more people. And that's Gail Strohmeyer. Gail, come on. Hello, Gail.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Pat.
You're a tough act to follow when you're on with Dr. Seubach. She
was wonderful. I learned a lot.
She's great. Oh, you can't not take notes when she's on.
Yes.
Gail, I want you to share, before you share your story of the cancer diagnosis, share your story about running. This whole trip on running. A week ago or 2 weeks ago, we had a man by the name of David April, who has the Fishtown Beer Runners Club, and it's expanded internationally. And then from what I was reading in your bio, we got another runner who has start us with how you got started running.
It was 2000, and I had gained some weight after having my children, and just decided that I needed to do something to help myself. And I could barely run around the block at that time, but I went out and I started running. And about 2 months later, a friend of mine had said to me, she said, run one race and you'll be addicted. And I ran my first 5K 2 months later. And about 6 months after that, I ran my first Broad Street run. And the year after that, I ran
Well,
my
we should
first
tell everyone a Broad Street run is 10 miles.
10
So they
miles.
realize it's more than 5K. Well, I
Yes,
just want people to realize that this is several months after you just started with the intention to run, and you're running 10 miles.
yes, yes. And then the year after that, I ran my first marathon, which was the Philly Marathon, and went on to run New York in 2004, the year after that, and then ran again in New York in 2007. But I've run the Broad Street Run almost every year since 2001. I think I missed a few for my children's graduation and things like that.
So what do you enjoy about running?
You know what? It is the freedom. It's the freedom of being out there. I live in a beautiful town, Doylestown, and every morning I go out and I run up Main Street and I see the same people. I see Kevin opening the gas station. I see other people opening up their restaurants for the day, putting their chairs out on the sidewalk, and we say hello. Moyer and son, Mike's over there, and we start our day with a hello, a simple hello, but it changes everything. A smile, a wave, whatever the case may be. And as the years have gone on, I've used running to help fight cancer.
And how have you done that?
I started in 2001. I ran with a sign I made just with indelible marker. I took a piece of paper out of my copy machine and I pinned it to my shirt. And I said that I was running for the American Cancer Society. And I had raised $150, which I thought was wonderful. And I thought if I could do that, how much could I do if I really tried? And so as the years went on, I used the longer races, primarily the Broad Street Run and the marathons, to raise money for cancer. I would run with the sign on my shirt. But then in 2011, my 5-year survivorship, I joined Team DetermiNation. They had only been in existence by me, I believe, 2 years at that time. And there was a wonderful man, young man by the name of Dan Laval, who was heading the program at that time. And I called him up and I asked him, I said, you know, how close, what place are we in, our team? I had a team named No Surrender. I'm a Jersey girl, and I thought Bruce Springsteen's song, No Surrender, the name was very fitting for a team trying to help end cancer, and that we weren't going to surrender. So Dan Laval told me that he said to me, "You're in 3rd place," and I think he expected. I think we were in 4th place, and I think he expected me to ask how far away are we from 3rd place? But my question was, how far away are we from 1st place? So he told me. And with that, I put forth a little more effort. My team put forth a little more effort, and we took 1st place our 1st year with DetermiNation.
And this is the ACS's program, DetermiNation. And how do you
Yes.
go about, how many members are on your team?
I typically have a team of 5 to 10 people.
And do these people, how do they go and raise the money? Is it pennies per mile? What is it?
What most of my teammates have done, because it means something to all of us, something different to each of us, we typically write a letter explaining why it means so much to us and where we're at in our cancer journey and where others who we might be running for are at in their journey. And people have asked me how it is that I can continue to raise this money that I do year after year. And I have had so many people just come up to me and say, "We wait for your letter."
So Gail, let me just be very specific here and qualify so that someone who doesn't know exactly how you do it, you write a letter, but you didn't say what you do with the letter.
Oh, well, I mail it.
To whom?
Then I also
To whom?
email it. And
To
about
whom? Who do you mail this letter to?
it goes to my friends, it goes to my family, it goes to my dear customers, who I am fortunate enough to say are my extended family. I have been in business 35 years and have had many of my customers for the full 35 years. And at this point, after 35 years, many of them have been touched by cancer as well. And
What kind of business are you in?
I sell commercial insurance. But they all know what this means to me and why. And I
Well, why
always
don't you
say,
tell us why?
that I oh, I've got the tissue right here. I always say that I'm doing this to help make a better tomorrow for our children. It's Cancer affects everyone in some capacity. I lost my dad when I was 19 to cancer. My mom was diagnosed around 2001 or 2. She survived. We lost her just last year to old age at 96. She lived a wonderful life. And 2006, I was diagnosed. 2018, my brother lost his battle after 3 years. His wife passed away this July. My nephew is an only child. And the same week, my sister was now diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. So this is personal to me, and I know what it means to me, but I know these feelings are shared by everyone who has been touched by cancer, whoever received that call, either themselves or for a loved one saying, you have cancer. And so through running, I just, I feel like it's what I can do to help at a time when I really sometimes just feel so helpless. And the American Cancer Society has always provided that platform, and Team Determination has become mine and my family's extended family. We get together, we do this every year. My family lives this with me every year. My daughter, she teases me that I'm gonna wear out the refresh button on my phone because I like to see where we're at with respect to the fundraising. And to get together every year and then run Broad Street. I always say it's our victory lap for having helped raise all this money for cancer research and the strides that have been made, and the many years that this research has given so many of us, including myself. I believe that this research is helping my sister right now.
So take us back to 2006, because we've talked about your running career and all the money you've raised. How much have you raised to date?
We just surpassed the $100,000 mark this year.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank
Wow.
you. Thank you.
That's tough. That's a lot of nickels and dimes. Wow.
Thank you.
So take us
and
back.
also through determination, we have helped at Hope Lodge, and a couple of years ago, I had the pleasure of meeting some wonderful people there. A woman who ended up on my team, but also a man who just brought every ounce of spirit of life, Winston Robinson. And I had a little bet with him when I first met him, and I asked him, I said, if I come back with something, I said, you're going to promise me to dance with me, right? And he said, yes. And so I brought my little portable strobe light to Hope Lodge, and I actually danced with Winston that night. And we had a ball. It was a moment that I will never forget. He went on to pass away about 6 months after that, but his wife and I keep in touch, and she reminds me of what that meant to him and to her.
So I want you to take us back to 2006 and now talk about yourself, all the people you're helping and the family and friends and all the neighbors. And all the people you get to meet in Doylestown in your daily runs, but I want to know more about you. In 2006, share us your story of when you were diagnosed.
Well, it was March of 2006. Well, it was actually January of '06. I thought I had felt something when I was sleeping, and I made an appointment with the doctor, and they did a biopsy, and I did get the call saying that I had cancer. And my father, my kids, my daughter was 11 at the time, and my son was 8. And ironically, I was 11 when my father had been diagnosed. So they told me my prognosis would be good. So I chose not to tell my children. When I had the 2 operations, I told my kids that mommy just had something twisted inside that they had to fix. And that was it. And I
So
went on to
slow down just a little, Gail, so that our viewers know that you were diagnosed with breast cancer.
breast cancer, yes.
And then you had two
2
surgeries as part of the
operations.
treatment plan.
Yes. And then about a month later, I had 6 weeks of radiation treatment. Ironically, at the place where I was bringing the money that I raised with my runs the years before. And so my daughter was a swimmer. So I would put my son and daughter in the car. I'd drop her off at swimming. My son and I would head to the radiation clinic. I'd go in for 15 minutes, get my treatment, come out. He'd get a lollipop. I'd go pick up my daughter. And we went home, and they were none the wiser. But the following year in 2007, when I was doing a big fundraiser for Sloan Kettering for cancer research, I wanted my daughter to know why the race meant so much to me and why I was doing what I was doing. And when I sat her down to tell her, what she asked me was not what I expected. She asked me, will I ever get it? And as a mother, that was a powerful question. But I knew my answer was going to define how this little girl looked at everything. And I told her I hope not. And that's why I continue to do what I do. And she has been one of my number one supporters, along with my son and my husband and my entire family. And the following year, I did go on to run the Broad Street Run, raising money for American Cancer Society again. And then that November, my friend and I, Lisa, we ran the New York City Marathon together. She pushed me out that door that whole year. She's like, come on, we're just going to go, do what you can. And we did. And we ran that entire marathon that following year. And to me, it signified that cancer hadn't won, which was so important to me at the time.
So, Gail, you were raising money for about 5 or 6 years prior to being diagnosed with cancer, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
And
I
then
started in honor of my dad.
And then you were diagnosed with cancer, and you heard you have cancer.
Yes.
That moment.
That moment. That moment. I was at work, and that question, the emotions never change when I'm asked that question. I was at work. The first 3 calls I made, the only 3 calls I made, the first was to my husband to tell him. The second was to a wonderful woman I worked with, Marty Schaefer Callahan. I wanted her to know that I might not be back. And the third was to the surgeon. I was given the name of somebody local by someone else I know who had cancer. And I called him up and I said, you need to get this out of me because I need to get on with my life. And the next week I was there, and 2 weeks later, I was having surgery. But he was a wonderful doctor, took care of everything so professionally, always made me feel at ease. And you know, I share my story because I want others to know that it's okay to talk about cancer and that there is life after cancer. And it's so important, even to know when you have cancer, it's important to know there's life beyond this. My doctor had told me when I was undergoing radiation not to run, but that really wasn't going to happen. So when it was all over, I told him I had kept running, and he told me, I told you not to do that. And I said, well, I said, look at it this way. You can tell your next patient it's okay to run.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's priceless.
But it was my lifeline, and it is still my lifeline. I believe that everybody should do whatever they can to help others every single day, whatever it is, even if it's just helping someone across the street. My little Italian grandmother always used to say, in helping others, it will come back to you tenfold.
Gail, I have a question. I have to ask you a question. So you were raising money for American Cancer Society prior to your diagnosis of breast cancer. Then all of a sudden, life twist of fate, you're diagnosed with cancer. You continue running and raising money. What was the difference?
The difference was that I knew what the money really meant now. I believe I'm here today because they caught my cancer early, and they would not have been able to do that had it not been for the technology that they have and that they continue to evolve and expand on. Treatment now is certainly not what it was when my father was diagnosed. And so that money that I'm raising, that we're all raising together, is helping to fund that research and expand on that technology to help others with early detection and treatment and expand their life.
And you're here today with us for the Healed Gathering because you can extend people's lives. The research that I talked about from JAMA Oncology in the beginning of this show, you are textbook. You healed health and energy through active living every day, and you're over the top active with your running and your marathoning and your fundraising during your running. When you see people who have the diagnosis, they feel it's a seal to just sit on the couch and do nothing. What do you want to say to them?
Oh, it's what I've said to every family member of mine. You need to get up and get out, whether it's 2 minutes, 2 hours, 2 days. You need to remember that there is life beyond cancer. You cannot let it get the best of you.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Stay there. Now stay there, Gail. Beautiful.
Okay.
I want to bring Dr. Jeanie Seubach back on for the last 10 minutes of the show. Thanks, Jeanie. Thanks for coming on. And obviously you're dealing with a runner here, Jeanie, with Gail. Now, Gail, do you have any questions for Dr. Seubach relative to your nutritional plans? One, being a survivor of cancer, and two, being an avid runner.
I guess my question would simply be, have you found any foods to help more than others with cancer?
So I would say, our cancer survivors and those in treatment should treat their body as if they're training for something, because you are training for the most important, event in your life. And I would say the anti-inflammation foods, things that in our bowl, the fruits and the vegetables. And I made a little bowl here during our break here. I listened attentively to you, and you're very amazing. But this would be, so nutritious. All of these, when I see this bowl, I see different colors and I see different nutrients. So I see a lot of vitamin A in here. I see a lot of vitamin C in here. They're two very powerful antioxidant vitamins, which can aid in your healing. So yeah, so treat your body like you are in the race of your life. And we say we nourish our athletes. We need to nourish our body and fuel our body, so you can go through those treatments.
Jeanie, I used to ask you for training programs for our 76ers and our Flyers. So, yeah, I'm going to ask you, what is your training diet to run a marathon, to prepare for a marathon, or even the Broad Street 10-mile run?
I try to eat a balanced meals. I eat high protein, but we do, as runners, have to pack in the carbs there every now and then, especially a night or two before the big race. But a lot of greens, fruits, vegetables, chickens, not a lot of red meat, but red meat every now and then for the protein source.
And for the iron too. You're eating that red meat for the protein, but as a runner, you need it more for the iron because that heel strike hemolysis, you are breaking down those red blood cells. So that's why you're eating that red meat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So more of just balanced meals and
how about
everything in moderation.
How do you force hydration in your diet, Gail?
That one's tough. I think that one is tough for a lot of people, but if you keep a water bottle next to you every day, if you put a little flavoring in there, it goes down a little bit easier, and before you know it, you have drank, 3-4 bottles of water a day. So I think it's just keeping it out. If you don't keep it out, you're not going to do it.
Yeah, I'm at fault there. I'm guilty. And
I'm going to add something to that. We have what we call the hydration plate. My good old friend, Roberta Anding, she was from the Houston Texans. In their training camp, they would come off practice and it would be Roberta's plate. What was all high water fruits and vegetables. So you don't realize it, but when you eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, they have very high water content. They also have the carbohydrate that athlete needs to put back into their body. They also have a lot of the electrolytes. So move over sports drinks. Yes, they are appropriate at times, but it's the fruits and the vegetables that are great hydrating foods.
That's a great one. Jeanie, we talked about winter vegetables. How about winter hydration? People think that summertime we really have to hydrate and they forget about it in the winter time.
You know what? That's a great question. We were skiing all last week and you don't realize it because you're out in the cold temperatures or if you're taking a run on a cold day, you don't realize it, but you actually have higher hydration needs. We're all cold. I'm drinking some hibiscus tea right now. So, get into, and we talk about relaxation and soothing. Your teas are fine. You can do your coffee. Coffee is not so much a diuretic anymore. We don't believe that it dehydrates you. But, for golden milk, something we like to drink at night, golden milk, which has our spices in it, which decreases inflammation and aids in relaxation. So just make sure that, you're drinking it at every meal, have some type of fluid at every meal, and then the high water content fruits and vegetables.
Gail, any questions for Dr. Seubach? Any more questions?
No, thank you so much. I enjoyed listening to you. I did learn a few things and wrote a few things down.
And what did you write down?
The teff. I had never heard of teff. So I'm going to try that. And the quinoa, I didn't know that was the highest protein grain. So thank you for that information.
Are you going to do a bowl?
I'll try a bowl.
So I do this
and son love bowls. So
from a time standpoint, I use that minute rice. I use that 1 minute rice.
Right.
My broccoli, I put in the microwave for 5 minutes, a quarter cup of water, put the lid on it, 5 minutes. So I have my cooked broccoli. I had my eggs that I cooked up in the beginning of the week, my hard-boiled egg, my avocado, portion control, just a quarter of it. I have some beans down here, and I have my red pepper. So doesn't take a lot.
Those the grains are hidden in the bottom, correct?
The grains are in the bottom. Yeah, you can't see that. But then this is my spinach and my kale and my Swiss chard. So it's right here.
Okay, stay right there with your bowl. Gail, stay right there. Diana's going to come on because we do have time for one question from our audience.
Hi, Pat. Yes, we do have one question for Dr. Seubach. And the question is, do you know anything about an alkaline diet helping to fight or prevent cancer? It isn't really on topic for today, but I thought I would present that since it was a question that came in the comments.
Short answer, no, don't eat your food. Don't worry about the Alkaline Diet. Your body is amazing. Amazing. And people have followed regular balanced diets for years, not worrying about that. So short answer is I'm not a subscriber.
Jeanie, what is an alkaline diet?
Well, again, when we talk about foods, we have foods that are, the pH of foods, and they're telling you that they want you to eat foods on different levels of the pH, that your body can buffer it. But your body has an amazing GI tract that when you eat your food, you digest it, metabolize it, and it gets that perfect pH in the bloodstream. So there's a lot of hype on it. People are doing it. Athletes do it for a long time. It's very restrictive. And the bottom line, you just want to eat a balanced diet of the fruits and the vegetables and the whole grains. We can talk about it in another segment in more detail if you want.
Well, while you have since we still have time, winter versus summer. We just talked briefly about hydration, but is there something relative to winter that we should be fueling more of?
I think just be aware of your hydration needs. Interesting enough, this weekend, Pat, I just did some sweat tests during my workouts because I'm doing a project for my sports nutrition class. And even after like 50 minutes of, pretty, medium to high intensity, it showed me that I only needed to consume about 6 ounces of fluid.
Oh.
So I think, you drink when you're thirsty. If you're physically active, drink more. But again, when you're hungry, sometimes when you're hungry, it's not so much hunger, you're a little bit dehydrated. And that's why we say, have the wonderful cup of tea, or have the bubbly seltzer water, or have water with some lemon in it. And that's what you can do.
Jeanie, such great input. Thank you. And Gail, what a survivor story. Thank you. We call you a warrior goddess. And not only surviving cancer, but taking it to the public with a message and raising funds so that ACS can do the research necessary so that more of our families are not diagnosed with cancer. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I like
to close with my soup.
Go ahead.
Cauliflower potato soup. Wonderful, from the New York Times. Has a lot of nutrition in it.
There you go. There's Jeannie's take it home with you. Cauliflower soup.
Mm-hmm. Cauliflower potato soup.
Dr. Jeanie Seubach, thank you for joining us. Gail Strohmeyer, thank you once again. We appreciate both your time. And we also end this American Cancer Society gathering with a prayer, just a brief prayer. But it's a prayer of thanks, a gratitude attitude, just to say thank you for the grace in helping me welcome what is happening right now. If we can bring everyone into the present moment, in this beautiful, still moment where life occurs, life is only now, and just thank you for the grace and allow me to welcome what's unfolding. And you unfolded beautifully today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And thank you. And have a great day. Peace.
Mm-hmm.